right, let's roll. Welcome to Success for Life podcast. Here with Coach Schuman. I'm here with Lakunta Farmer, a guy who's run many camps for me and played years in the NFL. Has been a head coach out in Kentucky. Also a head coach, not just in high school, but also at the arena level, if I'm not mistaken. And has had some amazing journeys as a coach and as a leader. And we're going to discuss a pretty important topic, among other things, but handling bullying and handling that within your team and providing that kind of leadership, and also probably talk about it as well in the school because he's a teacher as well. And we're going to cover that important topic. So without further ado, I'll let Lakunta introduce himself, give a little bit about his background.
Hey guys, how you doing? My name is Lakunta Farmer from Louisville, Kentucky. By way of Pascagoula, Mississippi, but I'm a proud member of Kentucky. I'm a proud member of Louisville, man. Just loving everything I do with my life now, and everything that I've been through has given me a lot of insight on to what to do to help kids to be more positive and put more leaders out there in the world. I don't know if I want to go too far into my background, but I grew up in a pretty rough neighborhood. It was questionable, some of the people I dealt with when I was younger, but a lot of it was just to survive out there. Dealt with a lot of just people that weren't on the right page as I was trying to be, and bad influences. But I also dealt with some very good people and still close friends of mine to this day that we kind of banded together and got ourselves out of the situation and out of that neighborhood or whatever. Talking about our anti-bullying programs, well, I run a program called Kingdom One Athletics, and also I'm associated with a nonprofit organization called Inside the Lines. And we are a mentoring program. We do a lot for the community, a lot for kids. We not only train the mind, we train the body, we try to spiritually train them as well, depending on where they are. We just try to meet them where they are. And I know they need a lot of positive influences and positive role models, and we try to bring that to them. We got a number of kids that come back and talk that I've taught before, that Anthony Richardson, who's the founder of Inside the Lines, he does a great job in the community going back, and he's taught in some very, very rough schools. I've taught in some rough schools, and we've witnessed firsthand a lot of situations that probably could have been avoided. And before we started actually taking a stance on things, we went in together and decided and talked about what can we do to make kids' lives better. What can we do to try to influence them to make better choices? And with me having two sons of my own, him having two sons of his own, mine are 16 and 14, and his are 7 and 3, I believe. We just want the best for them, at the end of the day, and we want them to be able to experience things that we didn't get to experience. So with both of these programs, they get to see kids that we bring in and kids that we mentoring into being leaders and sending to college, and watching those kids graduate and just come back and be different. Anthony Richardson was actually one of my kids I coached. And he went to college. We got him in college. He played 4 years in college, played a year of arena ball for me at the Extreme. And he's been around me since he was 17 years old. And now he's 30-something, and he's got a family of his own, and just making it work, man. Just making it work.
Tell me about, bullying is such a big topic now, right? And you always had it when we were young, but you're always taught to fight back against the bully, and that's how you combat it. But now there's a lot of obviously different things with social media. There's many different ways that bullying can, I guess, take form, right? So, as a coach and obviously as a teacher, what are some of the things that you look for to try and combat on teams, within teams, and then also like what you even see, like what are some of the things that you actually see out in the community on that?
The biggest thing is awareness. A lot of kids don't really get when they're being bullied. A lot of teachers don't understand when they're seeing kids go through things. They don't understand when they're being bullied, and parents don't either. But bullying comes in, like you said, in different forms. You got physical bullying, you got verbal bullying, you got emotional bullying, you got sexual bullying, different things like that. I actually dealt with a young lady day before yesterday, and she kept saying this kid was doing things to her. And I'm like, that's a form of sexual bullying, kind of sexual harassment too. Let's go handle it. We went down to the office and talked to the counselor and then talked to the assistant principal, and we got that situation handled. The biggest thing is, you have to be able to see what's happening, kind of evaluate the situation, and get the kid to understand, hey, you don't have to accept this. This isn't how it goes. They can be your friend without doing X, Y, and Z, or they can be in this hallway with you without the violence, without the talking about each other. And the things that I see mostly is what becomes bullying, especially with football players. You might have a senior that's trying to haze a freshman. How it used to happen back in the day, it was no problem. But now, sometimes it gets taken too far. And sometimes kids take it a little more personal than what it should be, or go more personally than they should. And that becomes the issue in itself. What we've done, even here at Ballard, we've done a lot with trying to bring that awareness. And we have teachers in the hallway between every period. There's a teacher every 5 foot. So every door, there's a teacher outside, and you're aware and listening for things that could go wrong, and listening for things that might be a little too far-fetched. And, kids say, oh, you're meddling, and it's not your business. But guess what? It's my business if I'm protecting and trying to keep a safe environment here. So the awareness part of it, and just watching out for things. Kids get provoked. They might come home, and as a parent, they might come home with unexplainable cuts, bruises, or scratches, damaged or missing clothes, books, belongings. I know my oldest son, when he was in 5th or 6th grade, a kid was would take his phone all the time. And he was like, well, I let him use it. And finally I was like, why do you better bring that phone home, because that kid didn't pay for it. Come to find out, the kid was just taking his phone, and kind of bullying. My son at the time was a very nice kid, and he felt like he needed to be everybody's friend, and ended up he was getting bullied, and he realizing he was getting bullied. And that was tough for him because he thought that kid was his friend. And I think that's a lot of an issue too. Like I said, making him aware of what exactly is bullying, making him aware of the effects it's having on him and what it's doing to people around him as well.
Yeah, I think we talk about the effects of bullying, which is like a big deal. Sometimes they don't realize the subtle effects that it starts to have on them and their confidence and how they're approaching things, and they start to overextend themselves to try to get somebody to like them when in fact they're just bullying them. One of the things that I've always done, like on my teams, is like I have a no tolerance policy. Like my thing is that if somebody's getting bullied and nobody comes to me, you're in as much danger as that person was doing the bullying. We're not innocent bystanders when somebody's getting bullied. And because sometimes it's hard for the person actually getting bullied. You're right to identify it, right? And then not only to identify it, but also to be able to then come to you, feel comfortable enough to come to an authority figure to say, hey, because they don't want to get razzed among their friends. They don't want to be perceived as weak. And, making that no tolerance. And I'd say one of the things I always do is like if I say that at the beginning of the year, and then if something goes on, we address it immediately. And then we readdress it with the whole team again to like reiterate that point. And it's been helpful, but it does go on. Like, you'll get a parent that comes to you and says, hey, because the people will do things when nobody's looking, or they'll do it on social media or something like that.
Yeah.
How do you get? This is not an easy, obviously, topic, but what are some of the things you try to get them to recognize, for them to identify bullying, the difference between bullying and then someone who might be their buddy who kind of goes back and forth with them? Because that's tough. That's a very tough thing for a kid. How do you get them to recognize that?
The thing we do in our mentoring program, we try to build their confidence. And friend or foe, if they're destroying your confidence, if they're trying to bring you down on a regular basis, and maybe they see you haven't responded in a while and they just keep going and keep going and keep going, well, that's bullying. And we try to get them to understand that part of it too. With our football players, we do the same thing. If you know, okay, you have pushed this man's buttons to an extent where he's now angry, upset, mad, but you continue to do so, now you're pushing buttons, now you're bullying, now you're taking it to another level. That in itself, getting them to understand it, like you said, getting them to understand what's too far and what's not too far. And here's the thing, getting the person that's joking to understand that I went too far. And, like my youngest son is a jokester. He's the man, like one day I think he's going to be on somebody's stage and be a comedian. But at times he goes too far and he might take some personal shots when him and his friends are joking. And I have to come in the room and be like, hey, man, what are you doing? He's like, oh, I'm just joking. They laughing. I said, they're not laughing no more, dude. You don't see that? And having to be able to get him to understand that was rough. It was tough. And he didn't understand. He was upset at me. He was angry at me because he thought that I was causing it. Like I was trying to keep him from having fun. But I'm trying to get you to understand what you're doing to somebody else and how it's hurting somebody else's feelings. But the victim of the bullying has to be able to know that, okay, this is too far. Either I need to walk away or I need to find somebody to handle this situation for me, especially if I can't handle it myself. Like you said, a lot of kids might be scared of that. But it's easy to tell when things are too far because it's your feelings. It's your understanding of it.
Yeah, that's really true. Now, from a confidence standpoint, like, one of the things that I found, like, for example, like linemen, for example, on teams that I've coached, right, sometimes those guys take years to develop, right, and they start off as physically one of the weaker guys and someone that could get teased, and through working out, through lifting, through following the program, I found that like 2 or 3 years later, those guys become among the most respected. How like, what are some like techniques or things that you do? Obviously I always say like building your body is one thing that can build your confidence. What are some other things that someone that might have felt like they've been bullied in the past can do to build their own self-confidence?
Well, I was bullied too when I was younger, and the thing that I did the most, like you said, was build up some self-confidence and honestly some self-respect, like understanding that I don't have to take this and I can make this different. Or I can. My dad was very key in telling me, well, you got to fight back at some point. You got to do something. You can't just sit there and take it. But resilience, trying to find that resilience inside of you, trying to find that heart inside of you, trying to, pull out that confidence level, pull out that just the need to overcome. And if those kids can overcome those situations, then they do get respected. And I'm a key example of that, man. I had this kid that would harass me and bug me all day and all through school, like chase me through school, and I would run. And then one day I just like, I'm not running anymore. At some point you get fed up, at some point you get done. And I tell that story to a lot of kids. And I tell them that, I got so angry at myself for allowing these things to happen. I started doing things to prevent them from happening. I started, taking action when I needed to. I started throwing jokes back, or I started trying to befriend people I knew they were friends with, to try to counter that situation that way. But I went in the weight room and started lifting like a madman too. I was doing push-ups and stuff like that. If you can build that, there's different levels of building your self-confidence. Mentally, you can build it physically, and those two things together, once you pull it all together, and you become mentally tough. And that toughness that you develop kind of gets you through that situation. And then getting people around you that's on the same page and along the same lines as you as well. Building a friend network or companion network that is going to have your back, not just physically, but just mentally being able to push you as well, and academically being able to push you. Because once you're confident in all areas, nobody can bully you anymore because you're not going to take it.
Absolutely. And I think one of the things that coaches and teachers can do is find something that individual who they may have known might have had some trouble in the past with being bullying, find something that he does well and pointing that out to the group over and over again. I always use the weight room as a great example, but even on the field, I use them as examples of someone's perseverance and hard work, and look where they're at now. And I found that those guys start to gravitate it. And I've, linemen was where I first learned, because skill guys usually have like a certain level of confidence to them, because usually, if they're starters and stuff, they felt like they're pretty good and they touch the ball and all those kind of things. But linemen and guys that, have had to build themselves up and might have been heavy or weight as kids, as younger kids, maybe people picked on them, start to point those things out. I found that really, really to be an amazing thing that's helped kids tremendously.
I agree.
How do you help parents understand some of those things and how to not just identify it, but like this is always a tough thing, being able for parents to be able to accept that their kids get coached, and then also to be able to understand when there is a problem, when there isn't a problem. Like I feel like communication is a very important thing. A lot of parents are scared to communicate. And they communicate in backdoor ways where they'll go to an authority figure above you instead of communicating directly with the coach to give them an opportunity to work with their team and the athlete. What are some of the things that you try to educate parents on?
We have our parent meetings. I'm having a track parent meeting in the next weekend. We have parent meetings. We talk about these things as well. We talk about just teaching their child not to join in, being aware of what's going on with their child too. That's number one, being aware of what's going on with your child. Kids come home and sometimes don't want to talk to you, going straight to their room or shut the door and do those things. If you don't talk to your kid on a regular basis, if you don't frequently correspond with them, going back and forth to understand who they are now, because they're changing too. They're changing on a regular basis. If you don't correspond with them, you'll never understand if they're going through anything. You never understand if somebody's doing something to them that they don't understand. And doing that conversation, that communication allows them, when they are getting bullied or something is going wrong, they feel comfortable talking to you. A lot of parents parent like, I don't know how to put this the easiest way. So I just say a lot of parents do more, you do this, you do that, you do this, you do that, versus, hey, man, sit down, let's talk for a minute. Hey, what's going on with this? Hey, what you playing on the video game? Let's play together. I don't like Fortnite, but I watch my sons play it because they feel like I'm involved in it. I even have tried to play, but getting involved with what my kids do and getting parents to get involved with what their kids do, find out their interests, helps that road, that clear, build a clear road to them. So if something is going wrong, if something is bothering them, that they can just easily go talk to them and just have an easy conversation that sometimes end up being a hard conversation. That's the number one thing. Once we do get that out there. We always talk about teaching your kid not to join in with somebody else being bullied or not to laugh at somebody else being bullied. Try to find a way to get a kid to walk away or getting your kid to walk away. Talking to them about different ways they can protect themselves, different ways to defend themselves against things too. Try not to have hostility towards a bully after the things are over with as well. That is tough. That is tough. And we actually a few weeks ago, dealt with a kid that committed suicide because his mom really didn't talk to him about the situation. Not here at this school, but at another school. He wrote a letter to his mom saying that these things are happening. He was getting bullied on the school bus. But his mom didn't react till he got choked on the school bus. And then instead of paying attention to him, she ended up going to the school and doing X, Y, and Z. Well, while the school was handling the situation, the kid had dealt with what happened. Her not communicating with him and her, he's going through so much as a 10-year-old. He's going through so much and he's going home. She leaves him at home by himself and he hangs himself. And the kid was a good kid. He went to a sister church of mine. He's a good kid. He's always around, had a smile on his face a lot, but she somehow missed that. Not being able to talk to her in the way he needed to talk to her and her handling that situation the way he probably should have been handled ended up in his demise. And you want to meet these kids where they are as a parent. You want to get as much information from your kid as possible so that they understand what they need to do when these situations arise.
Yeah, I think you said something really good, which was taking an interest in what they're interested in, meeting them almost on their turf, so to speak, because, as parents, you think to yourself, instead of just saying, I'd like them to be this, think about what they really want to become and take yourself out of it. And that's an important thing. That's really hard because everybody has dreams for their kids, but you have to remember it has to go along with what their dreams are and what their goals are, and trying to, find a happy medium with guiding them, because obviously you want to guide them, but also understand what their interests are. And that's always, I think that's very tough for parents, and that definitely opens up the lines of communication where they're going to be more apt to talk to you. You said to the fact where let's sit down and talk, have a conversation with their child. And if you need to bring in a coach to help them to open up, great, or a teacher, but having that conversation with them instead of directing them all the time, and that's hard. That's hard because, we probably came from the school of where, your parents are telling you what to do. And it is a different world now. They do have, influences, good, bad, or ugly, that do affect their lives, that are out of our controls a lot of times. And it's really important that we're able to have that conversation where if something you feel is wrong, you could talk to me anytime about this. I'm meeting you where you are. And I'm not judging you whether you think incorrectly or correctly. We'll handle that after you talk to me, and then we can assess. Hey, maybe you're being a little overly sensitive here. Let's figure out how we can handle that. Or you really argue this is an issue. You're getting bullying, and how do we handle that? And I think that's that point is really good, and I can't emphasize that enough how important I think that is, that they feel like they can talk to you, because no matter what we want, like every parent, they always like their generation more than they like the generation below them. That's just how it is. And you can't, you can help them understand what your generation was about, but it's also important to understand what they think their issues are, and value that, and don't just dismiss it because it may not align with what you want for them.
Exactly. Exactly. When you said that, it reminded me of something that I've told a parent before. The Bible quotes or scripture says, raise up a child in the way he or she should go. When I think people took that and said, you're going to go how I want you to go. Well, I think that scripture was saying, if you raise a child in the way they should go, it's the way that their interest is, whatever their interest is, whatever they're good at, whatever they're interested in, to lead them in that so they can be successful in that situation or in that, career, or if they want to be a football player, if they want to be a baseball player, if that's what their interest is, your job as a parent is to lead them in the direction that they should go to be successful at that. And I think a lot of parents kind of miss that and kind of throw that out, well, I want you to be a doctor, so we're going to put you in this situation so you can be a doctor. Well, what if that doctor wants to be an engineer? Right. You know what I mean? So those things have to be, addressed, and those things have to be paid attention to, especially in this generation of millennials that want to know why. There has to be a why to everything. Right, you got to give them a reason why. Right. You got to give them a reason why these things are the way they are, and why what I'm trying to get you to see has to be important. This is why. You got to lay out a plan, lay out a map, and hopefully they walk the line to get where they want to be. You just got to be that conduit to get them there, that conductor to get them there.
With your program, do you start to do immediately? Because this is one of the things I found. It was shocking. I took over a program a couple of years ago, and they hadn't had a lot of success. And I asked them, what were their goals, and let's take out football. What are your goals? Period. I was shocked to find that basically 90% of them, 9 out of 10 of them, and it might have been even higher than that, really didn't even know what their goal was. Like, forget football. They didn't have any goals there, okay?
Right.
They didn't even necessarily know exactly what their goals were for themselves, maybe even academically. They knew they should be a good student. They knew that that's what they should do, but they didn't really have a goal there. And when do you start? My thing is you as soon as you possibly can get the kid to understand how to start setting goals, you want to start them doing that, and not tell them this is what their goals are, but maybe they only have one goal for this week and build on. How do you get the parents to start to have that conversation about what do they want to be, in those critical teenage years when they always want to rebel as teenagers, as we all have gone through. They want their parents around less because they're trying to get more freedom. How do you start to rein that in? What does that conversation look like?
That conversation has to be one that especially with parents that kind of don't get it, that kind of don't understand, you have to continuously. The head coach here at Ballard, football coach, he sends out emails every week to parents, and even when we're off season, he sends out emails, and I admire him for that, because I might send one to my parents every 2 months. Right. But I admire him for what he does every week, because he literally takes the time and tells them, hey, see what your kid's situation is, see what your kid's goal is. And when he does that, for me, being a parent of one of the players, receiving the email, I do think at times, well, did I ask him what his goals were for this week? And me and my kids, we try to set, well, what do we want to do this week to make us better? What do we want to do today to make us better than yesterday? And that's our prayer every morning anyway before we walk in this building. How can we be better today than we were yesterday? And I try to put that on the parents that the kids that I train, talking to their parents. I try to get them to understand it. The kids I mentor, talking to their parents, that if you frequently, consistently, and intentionally ask them what their goals are, teaching them what the goals are that's worth going to get. Having short-term goals, having long-term goals, asking them where do I see myself in 5 years, where do I see myself tomorrow, is important. I teach African American history here, and the first thing I did in class was for them to write down their values and their goals. And like you said, 90% of them couldn't tell me a real value or a real goal. about 2 months after that, I told him to write it down again. About 2 months after that, I asked him to write it down. Matter of fact, last week, I asked him to tell me their goals and visions and things like that. I need to know how you're growing. I need to know how you're evolving, and getting parents to understand your kid is evolving every day. Something's influencing them to do something different every day. And if you don't intervene in that, you're going to lose your kid at some point. And yeah, they're going to grow up. They want their freedom. But if you put the right things in, instill the right things in them, they'll be able to differentiate between right and wrong and good choices and bad choices. Hopefully make a good choice.
Yeah, I think measurable, actionable, and specific are my three things when I talk about goals, because, you know, it's one thing to say I want to be a 4.0 student, or I want to go to Princeton or Harvard, or I want to be a Division I football player. Those, to me, I always tell people, don't tell me that. That's not specific enough. Like, what are your measurables? What are your actions that you're going to do to get to that goal?
Yeah, how you gonna get there? Right, how you gonna get there?
And what specifically is your goal? Like, when you say my goal is to be a Division I football player, well, there are Division I football players that are on full scholarship. There are walk-ons. There are guys that come in from JUCO. Like, be more specific. So say, hey, I want to be a Division I football player on full scholarship, and this is how I'm going to go about doing it. I want to do it at the end of my high school career, and here are the measurables that will help me get to that point. I got to, get my speed to X. And so those become goals that I think transcend, and to build on what you talk about when we, go circling all the way back to the bullying thing. Those things give you things that you can measure about. I mean, you could say, hey, listen, when somebody says something to me that is negative, I'm strong enough to correct them,
right.
Right. And stand my ground on that. And those become goals that you build out. And I tell kids, like, I don't have a diary per se, but I have more pieces of paper that I write things down on that go all over the place. Some that I may not reference. I may not reference for months or years, but I have. Right. I'm like, I remember writing in this notebook something about this, and something comes up, I'll take a look at it and maybe cover a topic on that. Because if you start to write those things down, and this is one of the things that's underutilized, like, because I write things in my notes on my phone. Anywhere you can write it down and then check back on it is good. And I actually think writing it down is even better, because it kind of sticks in your brain that it's something that you got to do. But yeah, it's one of the things, like, write things down all the time. Idea comes to your head, write it down. It doesn't mean you're going to do anything about it. You may never do anything about it, but it starts to build your confidence as, I do have ideas in my head. I have thoughts that mean something. And you start to do that and build your confidence, and I think that it starts to change the frame you think yourself. And I believe that you're less likely to be bullied. Someone you could have as a goal, like, someone writes something negative to me on social media, I'm not responding because it's not bothering me. Like, every person, including myself, I'm sure you, like, someone's says something negative to me, you think to yourself, boy, I'd love to give them a piece of my mind, right? Right. And then you just pause and you say to yourself, you know what? Like, this is not worth it. This is not worth it. Like, there are times when it's worth it, and starting to understand those things are a big deal. I want to, because I know you're going to have to get off the track, so I don't want to hold you up too much. But I really appreciate you coming in. I want everybody to know where they can find you, get in contact with you, talk more about these things. They want to bring you in to speak about it more in your community. How can people reach out to you?
You can reach me by email. You can reach me on my Twitter. My Twitter handle is @CoachFarm43. And I also have another Twitter page, Kingdom One Athletics. It's Kingdom One _athlete, ATH. It's on Twitter. You can reach me by my email, which is lfarmer043@gmail.com. Hit me up on any of those, and I'll be more than happy to talk. I'll be more than happy to talk, to come to you or have a great conversation.
Yeah, and for kids that are out there listening, because I have so many kids that always, follow me and stuff from the events, you ever have an issue, talk to your parent. If you feel you can't talk to your parent for whatever reason, talk to your coach, talk to your teacher. Trust me when I say, even though they might be tough on you in aspects in sports or trying to get the most out of you, they definitely care about you. And if you come to them, they are going to go. And everybody has a teacher or a coach that they really like, or an administrator, and, go there, pull them aside, talk to them. They're going to take action in your favor, because my experience is, coaches and teachers, they don't get paid a lot, and they're in it to try and help the kids. And that's 99. Right. I hate it when I see things in the news, and there are things that happen, but 99.9% of the coaches and teachers are there to really help kids. Otherwise, they wouldn't be there. And so make sure you take that action. Definitely follow Coach Farmer. And if you can bring him in and talk to him, have him talk to, your community, your group, your team, definitely reach out to him on that. So we'll see you soon, Coach. Thanks so much for coming on. I definitely see you, with the events. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. I just wanted to leave with this. I always tell kids and I always tell parents, and I spoke at a couple of things, and I always say, try to be stronger than the words spoken to you. If you can be stronger than the words spoken to you, those words can never break you down and never destroy you. So I leave with that, and I appreciate you having me, man. It's an honor to be here with you. Of course, we work together all the time, but it's just an honor to be able to speak and do these things, and an honor to be on your podcast today.
Oh, no, thanks so much. I mean, that's what it's all about, bringing together great people and people that want to make a difference. And I thank you for coming on, and have a great practice today.
Appreciate that. We're going to get